Hello, it's Michael A. Gerber speaking to you from Carlsbad, California. Another Awakening the Entrepreneur Within series. And today we're speaking with Brandon Straka, a viral monster if there ever was one. In fact, reminds me of Forrest Gump. When you saw it, shit happens. And sure, shit does happen when you're having fun.
I just felt like running.
It's you. I can't believe it's really you.
Now, for some reason, what I was doing seemed to make sense to people.
I mean, it was like an alarm went off in my head, you know? I said, here's a guy that's got his act together. Here's somebody who's got it all figured out. Here's somebody who has the answer. I'll follow you anywhere, Mr. Gump.
So, I got company. And after that, I got more company. And then, even more people joined in. Somebody later told me it gave people hope. Nah, I don't know anything about that, but some of those people asked me if I could help them out.
Hey, man! Hey, listen, I was wondering if you might help me, huh? Listen, I'm in the bumper sticker business, and I've been trying to think up a good slogan, and since you have been such a big inspiration to the people around here, I thought you might be able to help me jump into... Whoa, man! You just ran through a big pile of dog shit!
It happens.
What, shit?
Sometimes. And some years later, I heard that fella did come up with a bumper sticker slogan, and he made a lot of money off of it.
So let's get to it. Brandon, talk to me.
Hey, Michael, how are you? It's great to be here.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Brandon, tell me this very, very brief but illustrious story about how you woke up one day and said, I've got to do this differently. And then you decided, Lordy, 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 to tell the whole world about it.
So I was a lifelong liberal and a lifelong Democrat Party voter. And for years, I think I had become more and more disenchanted with liberalism and the ideologies of liberalism because, I live in a very liberal city, which is New York City. I always had very liberal friends and coworkers. I myself am a gay man. So liberal. That's pretty much, that's been my bubble for a long time. But at first, years ago, I feel like the liberals were kind of about, I thought, equality and progress and the evolution of, humanity, and that people on the right were more about, being in the past and dragging people back and bigotry and racism. And so, these are the messages that I always heard as a liberal. But as time went on, what I started to find was that it was actually the liberals that were becoming more and more divisive and more geared towards driving wedges, I think, between people, policing people's language, identity politics, political correctness. All of these things became sort of more and more unbearable to me. But it was really after the election of 2016, because I was a Hillary supporter. I voted for Hillary, and I was devastated when Donald Trump won the election. I was one of these people going on social media, ranting and raving and creating videos and crying in my videos, going, I don't understand how you people voted for this monster. And I posted one day on social media about, how I'll never understand how you people could vote for somebody who stood before a cheering crowd and mocked a reporter's disability. And somebody I've known since I was a little kid reached out to me and she said, look, I just want to know, have you seen this? And she sent me a video, which was entitled, as a YouTube video entitled Debunking that Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter. And when I saw it, I was sort of instantly like, okay, this is just more right-wing propaganda. This is more brainwashing, tinfoil hat stuff. But I watched the video, and what I saw was a compilation of footage of Donald Trump doing that exact same voice and that exact same gesture numerous times over numerous circumstances over the years. But the commonality was that he was imitating someone who was caught in a lie, or somebody who was doing something shady or groveling because they had been caught doing something dishonest. It was very clear that he wasn't making fun of that reporter's disability at all. And so what it showed me very clearly for the first time was that the media, the liberal media, was very capable of isolating a moment out of context and creating a completely false narrative behind it and putting it out for the world to see so that people would believe something that wasn't true at all. And so then I became more and more curious. Well, how many other times have they done this? How many other lies have they told? Or how often do they do this? So I kind of went back to the beginning of Trump's campaign. I revisited all those key moments, that he called all Mexicans rapists, that he advocated for the sexual assault of women. And what I found was time and time again, if you watch or take in all of those different moments in the proper context, the media created a story surrounding those moments that just was not true. And they led us to believe that he was a horrible person, that his followers were horrible people. And that's where it all started for me. I mean, I could go on from there, but that was the beginning of the transformation for me.
Well, it's an extraordinary story, and it's extraordinary for me because what I hear from you is that not only did you suddenly see something that you had never seen before, but you pursued it, and you pursued it diligently.
Yes.
Discover what the truth really was, as opposed to what had been positioned to you as the truth, which is what propaganda always is.
Yes.
And to suddenly come face to face with propaganda, the media as propaganda, the left as propaganda, not as truth, not as what you imagined it was to be, the way in which it had been propagandized to you and to, frankly, everybody on the left. Yeah. You suddenly came face to face with something's missing in this picture. Something is terribly wrong about all this, especially when it comes to how I live my life, how Brandon lives his life. In short, you had a wake-up call.
Yeah, to say the least. To say the least, I had a wake-up call. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it was mind-blowing to me because, and the point that you're making is so appropriate because it wasn't just that, having your eyes open to something is one thing, and it's very true. But what I really discovered was that, particularly as a gay man, not only did I discover that the media is so dishonest, but that they really manipulate minority groups in America. If you're a Black person, if you're a gay person, if you're a Hispanic person, they know what scares you. And then they start creating these stories. They spin them and again, take them out of context and tell them to you to keep you in a constant state of fear because they know if you're scared, they can control you and they can control the way you vote. They can control the way you group with other people. And then, they can control that group think mentality. And that's what's happened. I mean, this is why African Americans in such large numbers vote Democrat. This is why LGBT people in such large numbers vote Democrat. Now, when I discovered this, I started trying to speak out about it because I really wanted to be an advocate because it all really started because I've always been a proponent of equality and rights for the gay community. I care very much about my community. I always have. And I didn't want them to be manipulated and I didn't want them to feel afraid if they didn't have to be afraid. I mean, you have to understand, after Trump was elected, it was like, they were constantly churning out these stories saying hate crimes are spiking. You're in danger. You're in danger. Trump expected to repeal your civil rights. I mean, some stories were even talking about Mike Pence wanting to put gay people in death camps and stuff. I mean, it's so absurd. It's preposterous. But when the media that you trust and you believe in is telling you this, you believe it. I mean, you don't. Why would the media lie to you? You feel like, well, they have my best interest at heart, right? Well, no, they don't. And so I started trying to speak out to people about it and just merely even asking questions or saying, have you seen this? What do you think about this? People started getting really hostile and contemptuous with me. And people started cutting me off in real life and on social media, slandering me, saying I was on drugs, that I was having a nervous breakdown, that I had lost my mind, that I was in a cult. There's a siren. And then
it's quite appropriate given what we're talking about.
And it's New York City. What are you going to do? And then I started getting, I stopped getting invited to parties. People stopped returning my calls and text messages. And the more that people started pushing back against me, the more it actually inspired me to get into bed every night and do more research, watch more videos, read more materials, see what else is going on. Because at this point, I'm like, I think the world that I thought I once knew is not what I thought. And I had to kind of relearn everything. And long story long, but by the beginning of this year, I had gotten to a point where I was so tired of living in a constant state of anxiety, because every time I opened my mouth, some sort of bad reaction would happen. Someone would scream at me or cut me off on social media or say something terrible about me. And I finally just said, to hell with it, because I'm so tired of being afraid, because I'm not doing anything wrong. What I am saying is true. The questions I'm asking are truthful. I'm merely serving up the truth to people, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to look at it or think about it. So I said, I'm going to shoot a video. I'm going to tell the truth about everything that's wrong with liberalism and the Democratic Party. I'm going to stick it out there for the world to see. And then everyone who wants to walk out of my life can just do it. And then I'll know once and for all who my friends are and who they are not. But I realize there's something more here too. Other people are feeling the exact same way I am. I know it. I know that thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans are sick and tired of feeling inhibited, oppressed, afraid, feeling saddened, because just simply based off the fact that what they believe has stuck them in a closet where they don't feel safe to tell their truth or speak, their opinions, or even just to support the president or support this administration. So I said, I'm going to make this video, and I'm encouraging other people to make their videos too, and to tell the truth, and to come out and create this video testimonial campaign that I call the WalkAway Campaign. And it caught fire. I put my video out there. It's gotten tens of millions of views. Hundreds of thousands of people have joined this WalkAway campaign. Thousands of video testimonials created. Tens of thousands of written testimonials created. And people have come together in sort of this network of support to say, we don't want what's going on the left anymore. We don't want what the Democratic Party is or the liberal media is. We don't want the name calling, the violence, the vandalism, the censorship, the fake news. We're walking away from all of it.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you the question. We're walking away to what? Well,
this is what I say. I say walk away is a journey, not a destination, meaning I don't tell people what to think or where to go. I'm not encouraging them to leave groupthink and come into another groupthink. What I'm saying is that this is what's happening on the left. This is the truth about the liberal media, the Democratic Party, and progressives on the left. It's not okay, and it's time for us to walk away from that. But it's up to every individual to do their own research and decide for themselves, where do I belong and what do I want? Now, the WalkAway campaign, we have independents, we have libertarians, we have Republicans. We have Republicans who support the president, Republicans who don't support the president, and that's fine. Because what we do is we engage in civil discourse. We engage in respectful conversation. We treat each other with dignity. And what we've really done is grow this enormous center where people are coming together as Americans in the spirit of respect and civility. We don't want the fringe right. We don't want the fringe left. But what we want is a peaceful, civil, respectful America, like many of us used to remember from the past, and something that we've lost. But where every individual ends up is for them to decide. Because I'm not starting a religion. I'm not starting a cult. I'm not starting a new party. I'm just encouraging people to walk away from incivility and everything that's happening on the left.
I got it. At the same time as you're doing that, Brandon, you're also creating a presence. And that presence is identified with the definition of walk away.
Yes.
Effectively, what you're creating is a free thinking organization devoted to free thought for every single individual, every human being, to discover what it means to think, what it means to relate to reality, what truth is defined as, and how to truly define it for oneself. What, in fact, I do believe in, what, in fact, I don't believe in. That I'm not a part of a group. I'm not a part of a tribe. I'm not a part of a whatever that has a label to it, and that's defined by what it looks like, what it talks like, what it thinks like, what it does, etc., and so forth. You can't identify me like that. You can only identify me by truly understanding who I am. But I don't even understand who I am yet. That's what I'm discovering. And the more I go into that, you're saying, the deeper I go into that, the deeper I pursue that question, who am I really? What is the world like really? What are people saying to me really? What are they identified with really? The more you pursue that, the more human you become.
Absolutely. And I think the reason why it's so important, you're saying, this journey of self-discovery, which is so absolutely hitting the nail on the head. I think the reason why this campaign is so important, and I think the reason why it's resonated with so many people, is because so many people have been feeling this way for a long time, like they're ready to walk away, like they feel like something is wrong with the left, but they think that they're going to be alone if they leave, and they think it's scary walking into the unknown. Where do I go? What do I do? Now, again, we're not telling people what to think or what to do, but it's a lot less scary to walk into the unknown if you're walking into the unknown with other people, and you're kind of finding your way together, which I think is what's happening here. When I went through this process by myself, and it was incredibly difficult. I mean, the year of 2017 was one of the hardest years of my life, because not only were all my friends turning their backs on me in droves, but it's hard for people to understand, I think, if they haven't had this experience. But I felt like I was losing my mind. I mean, for months, I was just like, coming to the realization that everything that you've believed for years and years and years is turned upside down, and much of it was never true to begin with, makes you feel crazy. And it kind of makes you feel like, I went through periods of time where I thought, maybe I'll just keep pretending to be a liberal, even though I know it's all BS, even though I know that I've already discovered that a huge percentage of what I used to believe is not true. My life would be so much easier if I just keep going along with it. And when I'm sitting around with a group of people at dinner or at work or whatever, and they're saying all these things that I know are 100% false, that they've heard from the media, and it's completely fake news, not true, maybe my life would just be a lot easier if I just nod my head and go, I know, isn't it terrible? Isn't it terrible? But I couldn't.
But you can't do that.
You can't do that.
You could do that. But it's just a repeat of the past without any of the core true beliefs associated with it. And when you describe it, it's like I was losing my mind. It's not like you were losing your mind. You were losing your mind. But you understand, your mind that you were losing was the programmed mind that you could no longer support. So your mind was programmed to accept certain beliefs which were absolutely contradictory to the truth. It's extraordinary, since the, in quotes, civil rights movement, since Dr. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, was spoken so brilliantly and eloquently and authentically, that how we've turned that into a political reality has literally destroyed African Americans, their home life, their relationships with each other. 73% of Black kids are born without a father.
I know it.
73%. For the very reason that you're describing.
Right.
And so they've been seduced into a reality which is a falsely built, constructed reality for power.
That's exactly right. And those statistics that you're describing, I mean, I believe the statistics are very similar for the amount. And if I'm wrong, please forgive me, but I think the numbers are very similar for African American women who are currently on social programs, and they're told repeatedly that this is happening to them because of people on the right. I mean, they're told that they're in the predicament they are because they're being oppressed by a white supremacist structure.
Old white men.
Right. And the truth is that it's really the Democrats. I mean, it's mind control of the Democrats. And you're right.
So let's go beyond that for a moment.
Sure.
When I labeled the name of this particular segment, this episode of Awakening the Entrepreneur Within, the name that I gave it, which was From Viral to Holy Shit, an interview with Brandon. The reason for that is you're suddenly finding yourself in a place, Brandon, that in fact requires you to think anew about who Brandon is in relationship with what you're setting yourself out to do.
Right.
Because as well as you're having a march, the next question is, then what?
Right.
Because it can't simply sit there having been launched with that viral implication of conversation that you brought out to millions of people who watched you, and some of whom hated you, and some of you simply dismissed you, and some of you said, what is this? He's saying something I'm feeling. I'm relating to this. This is important. What do I do with this? Well, you can say, well, we can do what we can do, but we can at least march. But there's something more than that that's calling you. And it's sort of like the same conversation I had with that young gentleman I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, who at 18 now just graduated from high school and is dealing with the question every high school graduate is dealing with. One, do I go to college or don't I? If they go to college, and out of the high school graduates in the United States today, 2.1 million have registered for college. 400,000 have not. Of the 2.1 million who have registered for college, 50% of them will drop out. But when they drop out, they will be deeply in debt. Those who graduate from college will owe about $39 million. Think about that.
I think about it all the time. I went back to school later in life, and I'm going to be in debt for a very long time because of it.
That's my point.
Yeah.
To do what?
And I'm not even doing, now I'm doing the WalkAway campaign, but even if I weren't, I discovered that I didn't really like the thing that I went back to school for.
You got it. So my point being, so it raises the question, who am I and why am I here?
Right.
And I'm suggesting, Brandon, that's the question that you're really asking. And you've been asking that since you were struck by the indecency of what, in fact, the left had done to program you, what the media had done to promote this false emphasis that they promoted and promoted and promote every single day. And what the rest of us, all these people who you're suddenly speaking to and the ones you're not, must come to realize, I'm being programmed. I'm being programmed as certainly as Google is programming my search, as certainly as Facebook is programming my contact with other people, as certainly as YouTube is programming everything we do by rewarding us when we're good and punishing us when we're bad. And every single one of them have a definition for what that means.
Right.
So suddenly here you are, a young man, viral, deeply committed, waking up to the presence of your consciousness and discovering how many lies have existed in the shaping of your reality, to come to the point where you're saying, I must do this.
Yes.
And suddenly you're called. That's an amazing thing, Brandon, to be called. It's a stunning thing to be called. So few people are truly called authentically. But now You've got a responsibility. And the responsibility is to take your calling seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And then to suddenly use a new mind, I'm going to call entrepreneur mind. I'm going to call creator's mind. I like to say, as I believe it to be true, we're born in the image of God. And if that's true, then it means that every single human being on the planet is born to create. And if that's true, then I suggest we're born to create a world fit for God, where only the truth can survive, where only the truth can come alive. And now that you've been so moved, Brandon, you suddenly have a greater responsibility than you've ever had before, not just for Brandon, but for what you put out there. So when I asked the question, you asked me the question, so what's the holy shit about? And I said, Brandon, it's where you are right now. Suddenly you've attracted all these people to you. Suddenly you're going on a freaking march. Suddenly you've got a handful of people you can depend upon to do everything that must be done, to organize this, to organize that, to organize the other. And suddenly you begin to see how actually impossible it is to organize everything that needs to be organized if you're to rise to the occasion to the degree that your heart and your mind are calling you to do, which means you've got a lot to learn, Brandon. Because this is not the first time on the planet that somebody has suddenly come face to face with who am I, what am I here to do, and how am I going to do it? So that is the work we've been doing over the past 40 years, Brandon. And I must say to you, given that my job over the past 40 years has been effectively to awaken the entrepreneur within ordinary people, primarily owners of very small businesses, but also many, 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 many people who have created not-for-profits, which is what you've set out to do, to create a 501c3. And after a long, long time, they come face to face with the reality. They don't know how to organize it. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know how to lead it. They don't know how to control it. They don't know how to develop it. They don't know what, in fact, is called for by what they've actually set out to do. So that's why we have scheduled this interview to share with you what it means to awaken the creator within, which is what you've literally done, and what it means now to organize yourself for growth. Because, Brandon, it's not going to be just 200,000 who are called. It's going to be many millions who are called. And then what? And so when they're on the walk, how do they relate to themselves on the walk? How do they relate to all the negative reactions they're going to create? How do they deal with that when they go home at night? How do they deal with that when they wake up in the morning? When their wife says, what is this crap you're doing? I mean, what's wrong with you? When your friend says, who in the hell are you? Are you some kind of a Trump nut? What in the world are you thinking about? Which is what you said and what you shared earlier.
Right.
Amazing, Brandon, that you've actually been able to weather your way through that and be willing to give up your old self, discovering your new self in the process of pursuing the truth. I've got to say, I respect you so, so, so deeply. Without politics. You understand? Without politics, completely without politics. This is not a political drive. This is a human drive. This is amazing what you've done.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, it's my delight because it's the truth, Brandon. So, Brandon, you're now a leader.
Yes.
So you used to be working on people's hair. And now you're working on their minds.
Yes.
You're not working on their minds to get anything. You're working on their minds to share something.
Right.
You're not working on their minds to shape their minds. You're working on their minds to inspire their minds. Because the only way a mind can be truly shaped authentically is from within, not from without. And so the experience you're creating calls for a whole subset of practices, because people are going to say, yeah, but Brandon, you never told me this is going to be like this. You never told me everybody's going to hate me. You never told me holy shit was going to happen. You never told me what to do when holy shit happens. Help, Brandon, help. I don't understand how to deal with the pain I'm experiencing today. And then Brandon has got to say something. But Brandon has got to say something just like Michael is saying something to Brandon. You're being called to do what, in fact, you were born to do. That every human being on the planet, I believe, I hear Brandon saying, was born to do. What an astonishing realization that is, to discover that if we're born in the image of God, we're born to create. And if we're born to create, we're born to create a world fit for God. But what does that mean? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What do I do? So, Brandon, you're in this extraordinary space, just extraordinary space, but you're just at the beginning of it. Holy shit becomes even worse as you get done with your march and then have to ask the question, now what? I'm suggesting that question has got to become a key part of your campaign, of your outer reach, of your inner search, in the process of truly turning holy shit into holy moly. Wow, this can go on forever. It's what I'm here to do. So I just want to congratulate you for that. I want to offer you an invitation to read my book. We're giving it away as a gift here, making it on your own in America or wherever you happen to live, a journey toward radical self-employment, because that's where you are. And we're going to get you that book. And I want you to sit down and read that book. And what you're going to do is you're going to become so aware when you read that book as a gift from Luz Delia, my loving wife and partner, and I, to every single human being on the planet, to transform the state of reality worldwide in such a way that every single one of you can go out on your own path. Not telling you what your dream is, not telling you what your vision is, not telling you what your purpose or your mission are, simply explaining how they all work.
Well, thank you. I would love that. I would love to read it.
You're going to get it. You're going to get it. And we're going to have a lifelong relationship, Brandon, whether you want to or not. The minute you realize how important this has become, that you're doing a true man's work, a true human being's work. As Gurdjieff once said, remember yourself. That's in fact what happened, Brandon. You remembered yourself. And suddenly you realized, I can't live this way anymore. What an astonishing thing to realize. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My delight. So that was Brandon. Was that not a treat? That was Brandon coming alive right in front of you. That was Brandon discovering the creator within right in front of you and bringing him out to see every single human being on the planet ready to discover within the human being you were intended to be. You. Yes, that's right. You. I just love it when great things happen, don't you? This is Michael E. Gerber saying, thank you for joining us. I'll see you again next time.